This is the city that is gearing up in less than 48 hours for the Pran Pratishthan of the Ramlala idol in the new Bhavya Ram Mandir. This moment is something that has been in the making for 500 years. Also, it has come after 4 years, almost 5 years of the judgment that came in 2019, which was a seminal judgment in itself. With this moment now, of course, the city is gearing up for a moment that is going to be remembered for a very, very long time. The Pran Pratishthan is being celebrated as a second Diwali in Ayodhya. There are a lot of programs going on, a lot of people who have come from all across the country to participate. They are contributing in whatever way they can, either by making arts or by organizing langars or bhandars all across the city. Anybody who wants to do anything is welcome in Ayodhya. But from now onwards, of course, the focus will shift on the ceremony and on the Prime Minister arriving on January 22. He's going to be the Yajman of the ceremony. Speaking of the Prime Minister, he's been holding an 11-day Anushthan ahead of this ceremony, and he's been going across to temples, especially in southern India, that have a special relevance as far as Lord Ram's story is concerned, the story of Ramayana is concerned, and his life is concerned. What does that really mean? We'll focus on the symbolism of this moment in Ayodhya that is being celebrated as a national moment, and also how none other than the head of the secular state of India, the Prime Minister, is really leading this from the front. What does that mean for Indian politics? And not just because this movement has been inextricably linked to Indian politics, but for politics and Indian polity moving forward. All that will come with our special guest joining us in just a bit. But take a look at the sights and sounds around Ayodhya and how it is gearing up.
जिसके लिए मन में गंगा जिसके हाथ में है जीते भी मरते भी काम काज करते भी सुख में दुख में हर एक मुख में गर जाएगी ना जय श्री राम।
This moment of the Pran Pratishthan in Ayodhya is being celebrated as a national movement. With that is the political shift to the right complete in India. We'll take that forward with our guest joining us. I want to go across to Dr. Bharat H. Barai, who's chairman of the US-India Community Foundation and is a special invitee for the Ayodhya program. Advaita Kala, author and political analyst, George Kurian, political analyst, all joining us from outside the studio. I do thank you for your time. I also want to introduce the guests who are with me in Ayodhya. Swami Yogi Devnath is Dharm Guru. He's come from Kutch in Gujarat, right? He's come all the way. He's going to be part of the ceremony as well. And Sarbhuj Gaur Das is president of ISKCON in Ayodhya. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए. Dr. Barai, I want to come to you first up, but before I get to the topic I'm discussing today, whether we are seeing an irreversible shift to the right in Indian polity, I want to first begin by asking you your thoughts on the moment, on the occasion of January 22 that you have been invited for as well.
This is a renaissance of Hindu civilization. We had a flourishing civilization for thousands of years, but during the Mughal rule and during the British rule, we were not able to practice our religion freely. After the independence in 1947, yes, Hindus were able to practice their religion. However, under the name of secularism, Hindus were very much constrained. In fact, I have to tell you, we are able to practice Hinduism better in USA than it was practiced for almost 50 years in India. But in last 10 years, under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, who is secular, but he is also respectful for Hindu, and Hindu revivalism has started. It has started in USA, probably in UK, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, everywhere too. So I'm very glad that Hindus are taking their rightful place in the civilization and in the world.
You know, we are seeing visuals, Dr. Barai, of the Prime Minister visiting many temples, ancient temples in southern India. He's just taken a holy dip in Rameswaram. Not too long ago, Or even when Narendra Modi was elected in 2014, could people have imagined that the Indian Prime Minister will be seen wearing his religion and his divinity, his religiosity on his sleeve? But many people criticize him as well. What do you make of what the Prime Minister is doing, the symbolism of that, because he is head of a secular state, and the criticism that also comes his way?
You know, this is a very wrong concept. Secularism means state does not give preference to a particular religion, but the president or prime minister or members of the parliament, they can practice it freely. In the United States, before the president takes the oath of office, in that morning they go usually to the church. Same way, the King of England, he is the one who is the head of the church. So in Europe or in USA, the president, the prime ministers, whosoever are the heads of the state, they go and attend the religious event. So yes, Nehru and his clan did not do it. They should have done it. This is a country where 80% or more population is Hindu. So Prime Minister Modi is doing very appropriate by practicing his own religion. That does not mean that he is disrespectful to other people.
So you're saying basically what we've been, of course, discussing for many decades in India, that there's a warped sense of secularism or a warped concept of secularism that was in practice in India. Advaita, your thoughts? You know, the Prime Minister visited the Ganges, took a dip in the holy Ganges. He's beating through the Rudraksh. He has done this before. He has been criticized before. He's doing this again today. He's observing an 11-day Anushtan. From the fact that he's even going to be at the ceremony to the fact that he's today visiting temples and openly talking about what this moment means for India, it's going to cause a little bit of heartburn to many. But do you believe that we have shifted away from that politics, that warped secularism or that pseudo-secularism politics, and it has been an irreversible shift now?
Absolutely. First of all, Jai Shri Ram to you, Shivani. You're in Ayodhya ji, which is such a momentous time. So you are truly blessed to be there during this time. And Jai Shri Ram to my fellow panelists. I think this is a joyous occasion. It's a time of joy. It's a time of civilizational realization and renaissance, as was so rightly pointed out by our previous guest. And Prime Minister Modi has played an essential role in this, and the important role that he has played has been even on a subliminal and a psychological level. The kind of hesitance that we felt and that we were raised to feel in expressing our faith is something that he has shown through example of how you can do away with that. And I think that is a very powerful message for those of us who are practicing Hindus, but, have felt conscious in the past and have been made to feel conscious. And especially for the younger generation, to see that you can believe in progressive ideals, in development, you can be the fastest growing economy on earth, and yet be very rooted in your civilizational ethos. And I think that is the most powerful message that is coming from this occasion. And really, it's a message that is going to last for generations. And full gratitude to Prime Minister Modi for leading that with such dignity and resolve and fairness. And I think that has been the biggest example for all of us who are fortunate enough to witness this moment.
You know, many believe, Advaita, this moment wouldn't have been possible if we hadn't had a BJP government for as long as we've had. I leave that question aside, but do you believe that this is here to stay? Has there been a shift that is irreversible, or if tomorrow a government was to change? But if tomorrow a government was to change, in opposition, a lot of opposition parties also play soft Hindutva. But in government, they don't do so. We've seen it recently in Karnataka, for example. Their agenda is very clear. So tomorrow, if a government was to change, are we going to slip back to left liberalism, pseudo-secularism?
I think that ship has sailed, and it's sailed a long way off. That is why I emphasized Prime Minister's contribution to Hindu consciousness in this country and not necessarily the political play that this will have. Because I think what he has done has also enabled a shift in Hindu consciousness in India and in Bharat rather. And that this is something that is going to stay irrespective of political fortunes, whether they come and go. As for, the polity moving to the right, I think what has happened is that this pseudo-secularist idea of faith and the individual is something that has gone to the extreme left. It's become very negative. They have nothing positive to share. They're always looking down on being Indian, on being Hindu. And frankly, the public of this country has had enough of that. We're not here being triumphant, but we're here saying that a living civilization, and we have every right to embrace that and to acknowledge that and identify with it, most importantly. And I think this is the shift that the Prime Minister has achieved in the consciousness, in the Hindu consciousness in this country. And I would not only restrict it to the dynamics of Hindu versus this faith or that faith. I would say Hindu as in a cultural and a civilizational identity which transcends faith.
Yes. No, many would argue, well before the BJP or the VHP or the RSS became influential, this movement has always been going on. This movement precedes them. So if it has survived, post-independent shift to left liberalism and Nehruism, then it can survive any changes in politics too. And that Hindu consciousness you talked about was always there, possibly did not have the political voice to express themselves, which Narendra Modi in power gave because of its continuous run. But George Kurian, I want to ask you exactly this question. The problem with the opposition today is that it will visit temples, it will do parts, it will also organize pilgrimages in state governments, but they will just not participate in this function. They will not rejoice for what this moment means for India, despite the fact that they also play soft Hindutva. Very often they are indistinguishable from the BJP, but somehow they cannot digest this function.
Well, good evening to you, Shivani, to my co-panelists on the show, and to the other guests on your side, and to your audience. Let me begin by saying that the opposition is not trying to play a soft Hindutva here. The opposition, be it the India bloc, have complete faith in Lord Ram. It believes in the Astha, and it like anyone else in this country. Having said that, the only reason why the opposition is showing resilience to the Pran Pratishtha of Lord Ram in Ayodhya at this point in time is because it has become a political event. So to say, because the Prime Minister is going to address the nation from there, and so be the UP Chief Minister. I would also like to point out that I respectfully want to disagree with Dr. Bharat Bharai here because he said that Hindus were constrained under the name of secularism post-independence, which is not true. Maybe he's based out of US or UK, I'm not very sure about it, but he doesn't know about the ground reality, what's happening in India. Under the Congress era, it carried every caste, creed and religion together. It was a secular front, and everyone felt very secular in this nation. Everyone was practicing their own religion and faith and beliefs. So to say that Hindus were constrained is not true. I also want to point out about Advaita here. She mentioned about Hindu consciousness in India post Modi coming to power in 2014, which is again untrue. And yes, I can believe that people with secular or the minorities were pushed to an extreme where they had that fear psychology. That is one thing that I can say that post 2014 that has happened in India. So I strongly believe that the Prime Minister carrying out the 11-day Anushthan is a good thing. Everyone should be God-fearing and should have that something in them that what they're, because it again believes it depends upon what their intent is. And I strongly believe that the BJP or be it the RSS is pushing this Ram Pran Pratishtha in Ayodhya to polarize the entire thing and to make it political. So that shouldn't be the case.
Well, I don't think there is any polarization that exists anymore. Polarization existed as long as the dispute existed, but hopefully we can move on to that. And I will actually touch upon that point in the later half of that show. But I want to go across to our guest joining us here as well. Swami Devnath ji, आप कच्छ गुजरात से आते हैं. मैं आपसे पूछना चाहती हूँ कि अब जो पॉलिटिक्स, जिस तरह की पॉलिटिक्स सेंट्रल सरकार करती है, वो पहले की सेंट्रल सरकार से बहुत डिफरेंट है। तो नरेंद्र मोदी ने इंडियन पॉलिटिक्स को कैसे चेंज किया है? आपने तो गुजरात में उनको एज अ चीफ मिनिस्टर भी देखा होगा, तो उनकी पॉलिटिक्स के बारे में आप क्या कहते हैं? क्योंकि कुछ लोग उनकी उनको क्रिटिसिज्म करते हैं, उनका सवाल उठाते हैं कि आप हिंदू धर्म को बहुत बढ़ावा देते हैं, जैसे वो मंदिर जाते हैं, डुबकी लगाते हैं। तो क्या आप मानते हैं कि कोई भेदभाव हो रहा है जिस तरह से प्रधानमंत्री बिहेव कर रहे हैं, सरकार बिहेव कर रही है, या सर्वधर्म सम्मान हो रहा है?
देखिए, पहले तो प्रधानमंत्री जी एक खुद की अपनी आस्था है, उनका धर्म हिंदू है तो उसकी हिंदू रीति रिवाज की पूजा करनी पड़ेगी। वो हिंदू है तो अपनी पूजा पाठ करेंगे, वो उससे कोई किसी का लेना देना भी उनकी व्यक्तिगत है। प्रधानमंत्री तो पूरे देश के हैं, लेकिन उनकी व्यक्तिगत की कुछ भी आस्था होती है। और रही आपने बताया पॉलिटिक्स, पहले की पॉलिटिक्स हमने देखी है। ये देश हिंदुओं का है, इस देश प्रभु श्री राम का है। राम को एक छोटा बताने की बहुत कोशिश हुई, और वो 60 साल तक कोशिश हुई। इस देश में बाबर को बड़ा बताया गया और इस देश में राम को छोटा बताया गया। ये देश राम का है। तो पॉलिटिक्स जिन्होंने गलत चलाई थी, जो वोट बैंक की राजनीति करते थे, जितना विपक्ष है, इन्होंने जितनी राम पे राजनीति की इतनी और किसी ने भी नहीं की।
नहीं, इल्जाम तो वो ये लगाते हैं कि भाजपा करती है राम पे राजनीति।
अरे भाई, राम पे उन्होंने की, उन्होंने 60 साल तक मंदिर नहीं बनने दिया। कारण यही था, उनको एक जाति के अपने वोट चाहिए थे। राम मंदिर रोक के उनको वोट मिल रहे थे, और बीजेपी राम मंदिर बनाने के पक्ष में थी। क्यों? इस देश के प्रभु श्री राम है, मर्यादा पुरुषोत्तम राम है। इस देश का ये बाबर से कोई लेना देना नहीं
जी।
बाबर का इस देश से क्या लेना, प्रभु श्री राम का लेना देना है। तो प्रभु श्री राम का मंदिर बनना चाहिए। इस देश की संस्कृति क्या है, इस देश का कल्चर क्या है, अगर उसके साथ आप खड़े हैं तो आप राजनीति कहते हैं, तो मुझे लगता है राजनीति इसको कोई हर्ज भी नहीं है, कहना चाहिए, कोई बात नहीं।
हाँ,
इस देश की संस्कृति के साथ में खड़े।
जी, नो, यू आर मेकिंग अ वेरी गुड पॉइंट कि अगर आप देश की संस्कृति, देश के इतिहास के साथ खड़े हैं, तो क्या वो राजनीति बुरी राजनीति है? क्या वो राजनीति गलत राजनीति है? और उसको कम्युनल पॉलिटिक्स बोल देना और कम्युनल पॉलिटिक्स बोल के उसको नीचा कर देना, क्या ये सही बात है? आप बताइए दास जी, आपका क्या मानना है? आप इस्कॉन टेम्पल से हैं, आप तो पूरे विश्व में हिंदू कल्चर का, हिंदू फेथ का मैसेज ले जाते हैं। आप क्या मानते हैं, क्या इंडिया की पॉलिटिक्स वाकई बदल गई है, या सिर्फ अभी मोदी है प्राइम मिनिस्टर इसलिए चल रहा है, कोई और आएगा तो फिर नहीं चलेगा?
नहीं, आपका कहना सही है, आपका बहुत धन्यवाद देंगे इस चैनल बुलाने के लिए। तो जो भारतीय जो पॉलिटिक्स है, इंडियन पॉलिटिक्स पूरी तरह से लगभग चेंज हो गई है। कहा गया है कि शास्त्रों में यदि आचति श्रेष्ठ, जैसे श्रेष्ठ लोग, महाजन लोग चलते हैं जिस रास्ते पर, समाज उसी रास्ते पर चलता है। अगर राजा धार्मिक है तो पूरा देश धार्मिक होगा। धार्मिक मतलब ये नहीं दिन रात केवल पूजा करना। धर्म का मतलब होता है संसार में लोगों की उन्नति होना। धर्म से क्या आता है? अर्थ आता है, और धर्म से ही लोगों की इच्छाएं पूर्ति होती है, और धर्म से ही लोगों की तृप्ति होगी। तो जब राजा धार्मिक होता है तो पूरे देश में शांति आती है। और मोदी जी के कारण से मैं देख रहा हूँ पूरे देश में सभी लोगों के अंदर पाप की जो प्रवृत्ति है, चेतना, ये बहुत बदल रही है। हाँ, ये मोदी जी के गवर्नमेंट की एक कमाल है। मोदी गवर्नमेंट को मैं बहुत धन्यवाद दूंगा कि वो आकर के एक नए युग की शुरुआत कर रहे हैं। हाँ, उनसे अगर इस नए युग को अगर अगले 10 साल और 20 सालों तक अगर रखा जाए तो पूरा विश्व, केवल ये राजनीति की बात नहीं, पूरे विश्व को जो जगत गुरु कहलाना है, विश्व को ये जो धर्म की नीति है ये लेके जाए। इसको राजनीति नहीं कहेंगे हम, धर्म नीति। धर्म तो, मतलब जो राजा होता है राजनीति नहीं करता है, वो धर्म नीति कहते हैं।
तो लोग जो कहेंगे कि भारत तो सेक्युलर देश है, हाँ, यहाँ पे राजनेता का और धर्म का कोई लेना देना नहीं होना चाहिए, सरकार और धर्म का कोई लेना देना नहीं होना चाहिए, तो उनको आप कैसे जवाब देंगे?
बहुत अच्छा आपको प्रश्न है। हमारे शास्त्रों में जाकर देखेंगे तो जितने हमारे राजा हुए हैं, उनके राज्य में कई जाति के लोग, कई तरह के लोग रहते हैं, सभी लोग सुखी रहते थे। युधिष्ठिर महाराज के राज्य जाके देखिए, उनके राज्य में सभी लोग सुखी रहते थे, क्योंकि जो धर्म नीति करता है वो कभी राजनीति नहीं करता है। धर्म नीति, जो सेकुलर जो शब्द है, इसको बहुत गलत तरीके से हमारे भारतीय संविधान में भारत के लोग मिसयूज किया गया है। ये बहुत बड़ा देश का लॉस हुआ है। क्या आज पूरा विश्व इसके पीछे, भारत के पीछे चलता, लेकिन आज इस सेकुलर के कारण पूरा भारत पीछे हो गया है। अगर इसको धर्म को आगे फैलाया जाए तो पूरा संसार आगे फैलेगा, ये मेरा विचार
जी
है।
बिल्कुल। Advaita, the question is exactly this, and you know, I think you did touch the right point, and I think George Curran is unwilling to accept that point, but it is true, George, that being Hindu or expressing your Hindu identity was looked down upon. That was Nehruvian politics. He despised it. Let's just face it. The Congress has to come to terms with that. And I'm not saying that everybody in the Congress does. Clearly, there are people in the Congress who are devout Hindus and who also stood up to Nehru at that time. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and Rajendra Prasad were there when Somnath was reconstructed. They were the ones who were helming it. Nehru was against it as the Prime Minister. But the Congress of today still cannot shed that socialist Nehruvian view of faith and religion, and particularly Hinduism, because I don't think anybody will buy it that the Congress is secular. Congress has done as much quote-unquote communal politics as any other party in India. But it is unable to shed that Nehruvism, which is possibly turning out to be its downfall as well. George. And then Advaita.
Well, Shivani, I don't quite agree to what you just put forward for your audience at this point in time. I strongly believe that the Congress government and the Congress-led era, they carried everybody along, irrespective of caste, creed, as I mentioned earlier. It believes in a social fabric, and there's absolutely communalism. In the name of communalism, the Congress didn't play that to their advantage, I would say, and put it across. So I strongly believe that we welcome the Supreme Court's verdict about building up the Ram Mandir there. So we had no objection on that, because that's come through a Supreme Court order, and we welcome it. And we also pray that let this Pran Pratishtha and Lord Ram's Mandir in Ayodhya be a sign of peace and prosperity for the entire nation, the country, and Indians at large. And playing politics on the religious front is uncalled for at this point in time. So that is one thing. And so I strongly believe that it's good to be God-fearing, and I hope that the intent of the Bharatiya Janata Party at this point in time through Ayodhya it's in the right track, and it's not to polarize and the large majority of Hindu votes. That is what I would like to put.
No, but can I just ask you, what is the problem in the country, the government celebrating this event the way it is doing? Why do you call it politicization? Who else is going to helm a big program like this if not the governments of the day, whether it's the state government or the central government? They will have to provide the backbone for a large function like this. Otherwise, it cannot be as large as this. How is that politicization?
Well, very good question. Let me put it this way, that building up of Ram Mandir is not a problem. It's a welcome move, and the Prime Minister going and doing the Pran Pratishtha, the puja, is also no problem. It's only that the Prime Minister is going to address the nation, the UP Chief Minister is going to address the nation, the RSS Chief Mohan Bhagwat is going to address the nation. So that is going to give it a political color. Believe it or not, it is going to make a difference as far as vote bank is concerned. Galvanizing the Hindu majority voters is the main idea, because we are running up to the 2024 Lok Sabha election. Having said that, the Congress also at the same point in time, they have the Astha in Lord Ram like anyone else in this nation, over 100 million people. So that is one thing, and it's just a matter of
have individually, like I said, I don't think anybody can doubt the devoutness of the Congress people itself. But as a party, has it stood for Lord Ram? Let Advaita come in on that. Advaita, George made a good point about how the Congress party believes in social harmony and social fabric. But if I may say, that social fabric and harmony depended on Hindus being conceding, Hindus always conceding, while an exceptionalism being created for the largest minority for India. Now that's not harmony, that's an unlevel playing field. That is what people had a problem with.
And I think the answer lies in in the statistics itself. If you look at what has happened to minorities in Pakistan or Bangladesh, which were once part of India prior to 1947, you know exactly how post-independent, this post-colonial subcontinent has treated its minorities, how India has treated its minorities vis-a-vis how Pakistan and Bangladesh have. Even today, we get news constantly of Hindus being killed and victimized, and little girls being kidnapped, raped, married forcibly, converted. All of these things are everyday news. But somehow I feel that our polity, it does not look at that in that way. And if we have to look at this completely from the political lens, although I don't want to do that, especially on such an auspicious occasion, but just to keep it very generic, the only political party that has been consistent on the Ram Mandir has been the Bharatiya Janata Party. It has had the Ram Mandir mentioned in its manifesto from the late 80s. On to the present day, and they have delivered on their manifesto. It has been there. They have not been apologetic about it. They've never tried to hide it. And they have lost state governments. They have lost governments because of their support of the Ram Mandir. So they've paid a political price. They have also been demonized as communal for years and years. So they've paid that price. And if today they are part of the celebration, I think they've earned a place there. On the other hand, the Congress, right from the time of challenging the very existence of Ram in Supreme Court to all kinds of statements that they have been making in the past, and even today by declining, Sonia Gandhi, Mallikarjun Kharge declining an invitation to the Prime Minister, and not even saying when they declined the invitation that, okay, if we consider this a political event, but we will visit post that. Please note, they've not said anything about going to Ram Mandir after the Pran Pratishtha either. They just said that we think it's too political. So this kind of disdain and rejection of the feelings of so many Indians, of so many Astiks, is really something that hurts. It's hurtful at a time like this, but the Congress doesn't seem to get it. For Mother Teresa's canonization, when the Pope invited Sonia Gandhi, she was unable to go because she was unwell, but she sent representation. She wrote a long letter saying how she wished she could be there. So how can you have these double standards?
No, absolutely. One could also argue that the reason the Congress deliberated whether to go or not for 2 weeks was because they wanted to deliberate what the political impact of them going is going to be. So they have also weighed in politics. They also possibly politically cannot be seen at this event, because let's not kid ourselves, the Congress has not supported the Ram Janmabhoomi movement. If it hasn't actively derided the movement or stalled the movement, it has definitely remained agnostic to some extent, and certainly under Congress governments it was not seen as a possibility that the Mandir will become a reality. Let me go across to Swami Devnath once again. लोग कह रहे हैं कि ये बहुत पॉलिटिकल प्रोग्राम हो गया है, इसको धार्मिक प्रोग्राम नहीं रह गया है. प्रधानमंत्री आ रहे हैं, यूपी के चीफ मिनिस्टर आ रहे हैं, आरएसएस के चीफ आ रहे हैं, वीएचपी के लोग हैं, तो ये धार्मिक प्रोग्राम नहीं रह गया, ये पॉलिटिकल प्रोग्राम हो गया और 2024 के इलेक्शन आ रहे हैं इसलिए ये कर रहे हैं.
देखिए, इस देश में इलेक्शन तो आते जाते रहते हैं. हर साल आप देखते हैं कहीं न कहीं इलेक्शन तो चालू होते हैं, लेकिन ये एक पॉलिटिक्स हो गया है कार्यक्रम. भाई प्रधानमंत्री कोई प्रोग्राम में नहीं जा सकते, उनकी व्यक्तिगत आस्था है. क्या मुख्यमंत्री कोई धार्मिक प्रोग्राम में नहीं जा सकते? अच्छा, वीएचपी वाले कहीं धार्मिक प्रोग्राम में नहीं जा सकते? आरएसएस वाले क्या धार्मिक प्रोग्राम में नहीं नहीं, लेकिन ऑपोजिशन का ये कहना है कि आप ही कर लो, फिर आप ही को करना है तो हमें बुला के क्या फायदा, हम तो ये धार्मिक प्रोग्राम में नहीं, ये पॉलिटिकल प्रोग्राम में नहीं आएंगे. अरे भाई, मैं कहता हूँ श्री राम भूमि तीर्थ क्षेत्र ट्रस्ट प्रोग्राम कर रहा है, हमें आमंत्रित किया है, हम भी आए हैं, गुजरात से आए, हमें भी आमंत्रित किया है, ऐसे प्रधानमंत्री को किया है, ऐसे मुख्यमंत्री को किया है, ऐसे वीएचपी वालों को किया है, ऐसे आरएसएस वालों को किया है. ये तो पहले क्या नाटक कर रहे थे, पहले तो ये कह रहे थे कि हमें प्रोग्राम नहीं, आमंत्रण नहीं भेजा है. जब इनको आमंत्रण भेज दिया तब ये क्या लगा, हम नहीं आएंगे. प्रभु श्री राम का जो विरोध करता है उनका अस्तित्व खत्म हो जाता है. ये देश मर्यादा पुरुषोत्तम राम का है. आपने प्रभु श्री राम का मंदिर का आमंत्रण ठुकरा के, अगर आप नहीं आते तो कोई बात, कोई बोलना ही नहीं था, आपको आमंत्रण मिल गया, चुप बैठ जाते. आते, ये तो कांग्रेस को एक बड़ा मतलब लाभ मिलने वाला था. खाली आके दर्शन करके चले जाते ना, बहुत ही बड़ा इनको फायदा होने वाला है. लेकिन अपने कहवत है विनाश काले विपरीत बुद्धि, जब विनाश होता है तो व्यक्ति की बुद्धि भी विपरीत हो जाती है। इनका 100% इनकी पड़ती है, इनकी गिरती हुई है, ये दिखाई दे रही है हमें सामने। इन्होंने प्रभु श्री राम मंदिर का आमंत्रण ठुकरा दिया कि बोले हम नहीं आएंगे। अरे आप तो चिल्ला रहे थे हमें आमंत्रण नहीं दिया, इसलिए अब नाच न जाने आंगन टेढ़ा। इनके पास कोई लॉजिक है नहीं, इनके पास कुछ है नहीं, इनका अस्तित्व तो खत्म होने वाला है। ये बोलते हैं मंदिर मंदिर, आप भी मंदिर मंदिर जाते हो, लेकिन दुनिया ने आपको नकार दिया है, जनता ने आपको नकार दिया है।
ऐसा क्यों है कि प्रधानमंत्री मंदिर जाते हैं तो लोग मानते हैं कि हाँ उनकी आस्था है, लेकिन अपोजिशन वाले जानते हैं तो वो नहीं जाते हैं, तो वो नहीं मानते लोग? ऐसा
देखिए, एक सच्चाई होती है, एक ढोंग होता है।
तो ढोंग क्यों लगता है आपको?
अरे वो ढोंग क्यों? अरे भाई, आप प्रभु श्री राम को नकारते हो और तुम महादेव के मंदिर में जाते हो। आप महादेव कहोगे, प्रभु श्री राम कहोगे, श्री कृष्ण कहोगे, भगवान तो हमारे एक है। आप श्री कृष्ण के मंदिर में जाना चाहते हो, प्रभु श्री राम के मंदिर में नहीं आते हो
जी,
तो ये सीधा साधा ढोंग नहीं है तो और क्या है? लोग आपको जान चुके हैं।
जी। मैं आपसे भी पूछना चाहती हूँ दास जी, आपने बोला कि ये जो सेक्युलर पॉलिटिक्स है लोगों को समझ में आ गई, तो आपको लगता है कि आप जैसे जो धर्मगुरु हैं उन्हीं को समझ में आता है ये, लेकिन क्या जमीन पे जो व्यक्ति है क्या उसको भी समझ में आ गया है कि जो सेक्युलरिज्म की हमारे देश में बात होती थी, जो प्रियम्बल, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के प्रियम्बल में भी सेक्युलर शब्द ऐड कर दिया गया 1970s में, तो वो सेक्युलरिज्म एक जो पाठ पढ़ाया गया है, हिंदुओं को पढ़ाते हैं वो पाठ, और तो किसी को सेक्युलरिज्म का पाठ पढ़ाते नहीं है, तो वो जो हमें पाठ पढ़ाया गया है वो उस पाठ की हमें जरूरत नहीं है।
एकदम सही बात है। उस पाठ
क्या लोगों को ये बात समझ में आई है? जमीन
धीरे धीरे समझ में आना शुरू हो गया है कि जो सेकुलर शब्द है जो हमारे संविधान में ऐड किया गया है, सेकुलर का मतलब ये समझना चाहिए कि जो सभी धर्मों को समान वैल्यू देता है। हमारे मोदी जी, हमारे योगी जी किसी धर्म को किसी को मना नहीं करते हैं। जो भी धर्म आता है, जो भी जिनका भी त्योहार आता है, उनको सम्मान देते हैं, उनको विश करते हैं।
लोग ये समझते हैं क्योंकि योगी जी तो खुद ही योगी है, मोदी जी भी बहुत हिंदू आस्था रखते हैं, लोग ये मानते हैं कि वो किसी का चाहे बुरा नहीं करते हो, लेकिन भारत में उनके अंडर अब हिंदू ऊपर हो गया है, बाकी लोग नीचे हो गए हैं।
नहीं, ऐसा कहीं नहीं। देखो, लोगों के अंदर लोगों को सोचना कोई रोक नहीं सकता है। अगर आप सोचोगे कि मेरे साथ ये हो गया, नहीं, मोदी जी किसी को अपमान नहीं किए हैं। और हिंदू धर्म ये भारत के प्राण है। ये धर्म, ये कोई इसको जैसे आपके प्राण को कोई छीन ले तो आप कहो कैसे जिंदा रह पाओगे? ये जो राम जी है पूरे भारत के प्राण है। आप प्राण को छीनोगे तो कौन बचा सकता है? राम
तो आप कह रहे हैं कि हिंदुइज्म को धर्म की तरह ना देखें और बाकी धर्म से कंपेयर ना करें, इसको देखें कल्चरल और जो सोशल हमारी जो एक कोहेजन है उसको देखें। ऑन द टॉपिक ऑफ सोशल कोहेजन, we will discuss on the other side of the break whether the Ram Mandir, which was one of the longest disputes running in India and created a lot of tension, that dispute is over. With the ending of that dispute, will this bring in a new era of cohesion? There are some other key disputes going on when it comes to temple sites. Could it lead to a resolution there as well? That's an issue I will discuss with our guests after a very short break. But speaking of the changing times, there was a time in the 1990s, not many knew when the Ram Temple will become a reality. Today it is so, it wasn't so fashionable to believe it then. But even at that time, the VHP had run a movement, not just from inviting donations as it did through the trust now, but even stone work had started for the Ram Temple, which they had envisaged way back before anyone knew that this was going to be a reality. I visited the Karyashala in Ayodhya, where a lot of these stone pillars are being carved for the last many decades, and people still come there to click photographs and to visit that Karyashala. I leave you with that report. On the other side of the break, we'll be back with our guests.
Long before anybody could have imagined or predicted that the Ram Temple was going to become a reality, or when it was going to become a reality, there have been countless such workers working in the Karyashala in Ayodhya. From the 1990s, stone has been sent to this Karyashala, started by the VHP back then, and work on such pillars of the Mandir has been ongoing. At that time, nobody knew the date. but everybody had the faith that the Mandir will become a reality. In fact, the architects of this temple had designed the Ram temple design way back in the 1990s. It was even popularized by the VHP on their booklet. It was presented at a Kumbh. And today's design has only expanded on the design that was first made in 1990. Let me speak to this worker here. भैया आप कहाँ से आए हैं?
राजस्थान से।
तो आप इस कार्यशाला में कब से काम कर रहे हैं?
साल भर हो गया।
अच्छा, अब तो मंदिर पूरा बन ही गया है। यहाँ का जो पत्थर है ये बहुत सालों से यहाँ पे आया हुआ है और इस पत्थर को भी इस्तेमाल किया जाएगा।
पत्थर को भी इस्तेमाल किया जाएगा
जी। तो आपको क्या बताया गया है? आपका काम चल रहा है तब से वैसे ही?
काम चल रहा है हमारा, चालू है।
आज जब मंदिर बन के तैयार होने वाला है उस पे कुछ कहेंगे? क्या आपके मन में क्या ख्याल है? मंदिर अब बन गया है, उसकी प्राण प्रतिष्ठा होने वाली है।
खुशी है हमें, जल्द से जल्द हो जाए।
Stone has been coming to this Karyashala in Ayodhya since the 1990s. At that time, the movement was at its peak. It obviously lost a little bit of its fervor since then, post the mid-1990s, but work here in the Karyashala has never stopped, and special care has been taken that all the stone that is there in this Karyashala is still used in the construction of the Ram temple. The VHP and the architects have made sure that this stone, that many people have come here over the years to visit when there was no Mandir, and many people used to come here and even worship these stones because at that time there was no Ram temple. But their belief was that this stone will become the Ram temple. So special care has been taken by the VHP and the Teeth Shet Trust today to make sure that this stone does not go waste. All of this stone eventually will be used in the construction of the Ram temple. Even today, there are a lot of people who are coming to this Karyashala, who are actually clicking their pictures with this. There is still a lot of faith and devotion associated to these stones. And there was a time when people used to come here and worship these stones because there was nowhere else to go and worship. That's really the story of the faith associated with the Ram temple, which is today becoming a reality. With camera person Nitin in Ayodhya, Shivani Gupta, CNN News 18.
Hey, pal pal mein, yug mein, har kshan mein Ram, har kad mein, har man mein, ghad ghad mein Ram, Ram Siya Ram, Siya
चींटी को कण भर, हाथी को मन भर, उदर भूख सबकी बुझाता। राही का तरवर, प्यासे का सरवर, सकल प्राणियों का जो दाता। कष्टों का करता है जो भंजन, महादेव करते हैं जिनको नमन। दुष्टों को ताड़ना और संतों को देता है मान। वो है राम राम राम, मेरा राम राम राम। न्यूज 18 के भी राम है। आपने भी बहुत सुंदर भजन बनवाया है, मैं सुना मैं इसको।
हाँ,
देखिए हमने तो बस इतना कहा है कि पल पल में, युग युग में, कण कण में राम,
हर क्षण में, हर तन में, हर मन में राम, प्रणाम सिया राम, प्रणाम सिया राम।
ये जो आपने प्रणाम कहा ना, ये प्रणाम कहा था जनकपुर ने जब ससुरारी में आए राम। हम उसी धरती के एक वासी, मेरे तो पहुना है श्री राम। हम हंसते हंसते पहुना को कुछ हंसी सुना भी देते हैं। हमसे बखान के करी भैया, हम राम जी को कभी कभी गरिया भी देते हैं। हम तो जनकपुर वाले हैं ना भैया। प्रणाम, प्रणाम राम, ये सुंदर भाव है, बहुत अच्छा भाव।
मैं आपसे पूछने ही वाला था कि मिथिलांचल में राम जी को कैसे उनका स्वागत, उनको
मंगल न कौनो भयो राम के बियाह नियर, सुनली नहीं कान से न नैना निहारी हैं। हमसे बखान के करी हो राम रघुवर के, हम त राम पहुना के रोज देत गारी हैं। हम तो बसिंदा हैं जी राम के ससुरारी के, सिया जी हमार बहिना, राम पहुना हमारे हैं जी सरकार। हम तो पहुना भाव में रहते हैं।
पर अब थोड़ा सा एक सियासी रंग इसमें मैं क्योंकि आप बीजेपी से भी जुड़े हैं, तो आस्था का तो विषय राम है, पर राम राज की अगर हम परिकल्पना करते हैं तो उसमें विकास, हर किसी को, किसी के घर में अंधकार ना हो, किसी को भी रोटी की दरकार ना हो, इस तरीके का राम राज्य की परिकल्पना हम कहते हैं, मानते हैं। तो क्या वो हो रहा है? पिछले 9 साल में ऐसा दिख रहा है?
नहीं, थोड़ी सी नजर घुमा लीजिए। आज आपके कार्यक्रम का नाम है अयोध्या पर्व राम युग। राम जी की ज्योति स्थापित होने जा रही है। 11 दिन का एक अद्भुत यम नियम के साथ प्रधानमंत्री जी तैयारी कर रहे हैं। जमीन पे सो रहे हैं, अपने खाने से पहले गौ माता को खिला रहे हैं, मंदिर मंदिर जा रहे हैं, यम नियम का कठिन पालन कर रहे हैं। और याद रखिए, मैं तो न्यूज 18 के कार्यक्रम में कहूंगा, ये जो राम ज्योति है ना, केवल घी और दिया से नहीं जली है। ये राम ज्योति इस देश के 52 करोड़ लोगों को पहली
Welcome back. The Ram Mandir is becoming a reality, and as you've been hearing, it's after a struggle of nearly 500 years, and it's been one of the longest battles in India, longest disputes, one of the longest running court cases in India. At least 100 years when this case has been fought in Indian courts, more than 100 years. Now that it is a reality, one of the largest disputes or the biggest disputes between two communities in India is finally settled. Can the new Ram Mandir also usher in a new era of cohesion in India, especially on religious lines, is what I want to take forward with our guest. Rashmi Sawant is joining us. She's an author and of course a political analyst. George Kurian continues to be with us, and also our two guests with me in Ayodhya. Rashmi, welcome to the show. I want to begin by asking you, one of the largest disputes over, will the way this dispute was settled, the fact that no heavens broke loose, nobody has really been hurt because a Ram temple is being built. Everybody is only rejoicing. In fact, several communities are prospering. Do you feel that this could set the template for some of the other tricky disputes in India also to maybe move further to a more harmonious resolution?
Well, Shivani, firstly, I think the Ram Janmabhoomi movement and the way that it was resolved sets a template worldwide. We all know about Jerusalem and how 3 sort of major religions of the world have fought over it, and there has been no resolution till date for it. So I think the Ram Janmabhoomi actually sets a template, and the fact that the pen is mightier than the sword is what the Supreme Court of India established when it gave its landmark judgment.
I do believe that the same template needs to be followed in other conflicts as well, including the Krishna Janmabhoomi case and the Gyanvapi case, and that we can, not only bring justice in our own land for the indigenous people of our country, but also set a template as to how conflicts around religious lines, which inadvertently do become political, can be, in fact, solved amicably. And that I hope that, even Jerusalem can take a page out of the book from how India's led the way in this matter. And and the land of nativity, I think we all do agree, is more pious and more special than any other land or any other place of worship. And the very fact that it is Janmabhoomi of Bhagwan Ram is enough to kind of underline the importance of this occasion, which I'm sure is being seen in every street all across the sacred geography that we call Bharat. Only yesterday, I was at a national institute to deliver a talk, and all of the engineering kids were chanting Jai Shri Ram. And it's a pleasant change from our socio political setting for the past couple of decades.
या मैं यहाँ पे दास जी के पास भी जाना चाहती हूँ। थोड़े से मुद्दे और भी चल रहे हैं देश में। आपको लगता है कि जिस तरह से राम मंदिर का मुद्दा सॉल्व हुआ है, बाकी भी हो जाएंगे?
एकदम होंगे, 100% होंगे। जब राम जी आए हैं, राम जी ने समस्त अवगुणों को, समस्त दोषों को खत्म कर दिए। तो जिस राम जी के आने से सबके हृदय की जो मलिनता है, गंदगी है, दैट विल बी डिस्ट्रॉय। दिस इज माई कंसर्न, दिस इज माई फुल गारंटी कि उनका जितनी गंदगी खत्म हो जाएगा और जितने हमारे तीर्थ स्थल हैं अब धीरे धीरे उजागिर होंगे। जब उजागिर होंगे तब धर्म की स्थापना होगी।
जी, तो आप मानते हैं स्वामी जी कि राम मंदिर से जो सौहार्द है वो और बढ़ेगा ही? जो सौहार्द थोड़ा सा कम हो गया था क्योंकि बहुत दंगे भी होते थे, बहुत लड़ाई भी होती थी समुदायों के बीच में, लेकिन अब राम मंदिर जब से वर्डिक्ट आया है तब से कोई कुछ नहीं, मतलब सब साथ में मिलके चल रहे हैं। कुछ पॉलिटिशियंस इधर उधर बोलते हैं, कुछ धर्म नेता इधर उधर बोलते हैं, लेकिन कम्युनिटीज में बहुत सौहार्द है। तो आपको लगता है कि राम मंदिर से और सौहार्द बढ़ेगा?
बिल्कुल बढ़ेगा। और दूसरी बात ऐसे है कि हमने राम मंदिर बन रहा है तो ये संविधान के अनुसार बन रहा है, सुप्रीम कोर्ट के ऑर्डर से बन रहा है, किसी की जबरदस्ती से नहीं बन रहा है। तो राम मंदिर बनने से प्रभु श्री राम तो सबके ही हैं। प्रभु श्री राम को जो मानेगा वो सबके हैं। प्रभु श्री राम ने दुनिया को एक मैसेज दिया, मर्यादा पुरुषोत्तम राम क्यों कहलाए। उन्होंने पिता की इज्जत की, बेटे की इज्जत की, भाई की इज्जत की, पत्नी की इज्जत की, सबकी इज्जत की, हर को आश्रय दिया। तो प्रभु श्री राम तो जब देश में विराजित हो गए, अभी 22 को बैठ जाएंगे, विराजित हो जाएंगे, तो मैं गारंटी के साथ कह सकता हूं देश में एक बहुत बड़ा भाईचारा का संदेश जाएगा। और मैंने पहले जैसे कहा, नाच न जाने आंगन टेढ़ा, जो कुछ लोगों को लगता है कि ऐसे हमें वोट मिलेंगे, भड़का के वोट मिलेंगे, वो दिन लद गए हैं,
वो दिन चले गए।
हाँ, वो दिन
वो बहुत बड़ी बात है, क्योंकि जॉर्ज कुरियन, देयर यूज्ड टू बी अ लॉट ऑफ डूम सेयर्स इन इंडिया. One, I remember, if Modi becomes Prime Minister, the country as we know it will end. We've seen 10 years of it, no heavens have fallen. Ram Mandir is a reality, no heavens have fallen. India hasn't inexplicably changed in a manner where anybody is being hurt. It's just that it is rightfully claiming its civilizational roots, which shouldn't hurt anybody. And frankly, many members of the Muslim community also have no problem in it. Famously, Muslims were willing to resolve the Ram Janmabhoomi issue also, but it is certain people from a certain background that insisted that they must not give up. But with this case now being resolved, surely we can make a new beginning, where we need not use this, to keep ourselves above somebody else or for one upmanship. George Kurian.
Well, Shivani, let me make it or reiterate it for the benefit of your audience that the Congress party is neither anti-Hindu or neither anti-Ram or the India bloc as united. We strongly believe in the Asta of Lord Ram and we have no issues. We welcome this Pran Pratishtha of Lord Ram in Ayodhya, which is a good thing happening, which will bring in peace and prosperity for every Indian, every individual in this nation. Having said that, the Congress party has gone a step further, where they haven't issued any circular with respect to, the Congress leaders should not visit Lord Ram for Pran Pratishtha. So they have left it open for the individual to take their call. Any Congress leader can be part of the Pran Pratishtha. So that is something that the Congress party has also shown resilience to. And here I strongly believe that the invitation from the Ram Mandir Trust to the Congress party, being a principal opposition party in this country,
the larger question that I was trying to ask was, how do we build on this and how do we move forward for it? Forget the Pran Pratishthan, right? The Congress doesn't want to be part of it. It's not the end of the world. But we do have life to live after this as well. And there are some sticking points which we need to address. Can we come together as a community and do that? Or will the playbook that was used in the Ram Janmabhoomi episode be replicated, is the question to be asked. One would hope certainly that with the way that the Ram Janmabhoomi episode has gone, with the way it has been resolved, people will realize that yes, some of these holy sites can be reclaimed and no heavens will fall, and nobody will become a second-class citizen or anything. I want to leave it on that message. I do thank all of our guests for joining us. But speaking of the Pran Pratishthan, we've seen the new idol that has been, whose picture has been released. I spoke to Dushyant Sridhar earlier, who broke down the significance of the motifs on the new Ramlala idol. Do watch that. Thanks a lot for joining us. Vedic speaker and scholar Dushyant Sridhar now joining us. Dushyant ji, we are seeing the description of the Ramlala idol, the new idol, Shyam Varna idol created in black granite that has the Dashavatars, the 10 avatars of Vishnu also adorning, the whole pillar besides the Ramlala. I want you to talk about the significance of the Dashavatars.
Namaskaram Shivani, and namaskaram to all the viewers. Now that we are all ready to witness the beautiful event that's going to happen on the 22nd of January, the Moola Murti of Lord Sri Rama has arrived. And from what I see as visuals that appear in the media, it is a beautifully sculpted Murti of Prabhu Sri Rama Murti of Ramachandra, and it has been done by the Shilpi Yogiraj. When we look at Rama here, the hair tresses are curly and they exactly match the description given in the Valmiki Ramayanam, where Valmiki says, Kakapaksha dharam veeram jeshtham me datumarhasi Kakapaksha dharam. So he had curly hair tresses. And you see, of course, since he's Balarama between the age of 5, 6, 7, you see those chubby cheeks. So he could be a Kaumara, Pauganda and so on. So, but he looks very handsome. Now coming to the Prabha, the arch that carries the images of Dashavataram. Of course, the word Avatara itself means to come from the top to bottom, wherein the Lord chooses to be amidst us. And there are plenty of avataras which are attributed to the Lord. Of course, our Purvacharyas, our preceptors have chosen a set of about 10 avatars, which is referred to as Dashavataram. In that we have Ichha Meena, we have Matsyavataram. Matsyavataram signifies the retrieval of the Vedas. So when the Vedas were lost, the quintessence were lost, retrieval of it is referred to as Matsyavataram. When the wealth was lost, be it Kalpaka Vriksham, Kamadhenu, Uchchaishravas, Chintamani and so on, the Lord incarnated as Kurma, Kachapa. Then comes the avatara of Varaha. Varaha or Sukara means the avatara that brought back the glory of Mother Earth. So, Shweta Varaha Mahishi says Vedanta Deshika. Then comes the very, very thunderous of all avatarams called Nrisimha Avataram. Satyam Vidhatum Nija Bhritya Bhashitam. To exemplify the words of his very dear devotee called Prahlada, the Lord chose to emerge from a pillar that tore open or broke open like a dicotyledon, and he emerged in the form of Nrihari, a combination of Simha, which is lion, and Purana Purusha, the form of the Lord's body. So, Akantham Adi Purusham Kanthiravam Uparikunthitaratim, says Vedanta Deshika. So, we have Nrisimha Avataram. Then came the very beautiful Vamana Avataram. As a dwarf he came. So, this dwarf signifies Vamana, and when he went to the Yajnavartika of Bali Chakravarti, who performed the yagam by the banks of river, the northern banks of river Narmada, in a place called Bruguk Kacham, which is today called Bharuch in Gujarat, the Lord sought some land, 3 measures of land. The king, out of sheer arrogance, said, how much ever you want to measure, you can measure. And the Lord measured the worlds and finally brought down the arrogance of the king Bali Chakravarti as well. Then came Parashurama Avataram. It has large references to Madhya Pradesh region, because we had a king called Kartavirya Arjuna who belonged to the Haihaya clan, and he was housed in a place called Maheshwar, from where we get the famous Maheshwari silk. So that is when, to avenge the death of his father Jamadagni, Parashurama wants to bring down the arrogance of Kartavirya Arjuna and has a huge war with him. Then comes the greatest of our avatars, called Rama Avataram. In Rama Avataram, the Lord wanted to establish Dharma. So he is called Dharmo Vigrahavan. He is the personification of Dharma. Then comes Krishna Avataram. We have 2 avatars. One is Balarama Avataram. Second is Krishna Avataram. Balarama was the elder brother to Krishna. And Balarama does not have a huge role except in a few instances. Whereas when we come to Krishna Avataram, Krishna Avatara is yet another avatara that gives the essence of the Upanishad. Sarvo Upanishado Gavaha Dugdha Gopalanandanaha Partho Vatsaha Sudhir Bhokta Dugdham Geetamritam Mahat. So he gave the essence of the Upanishads called Bhagavad Gita. And then we have the Kalki Avatara, which is said to appear only when corruption and malice reaches its zenith. So it seems we are living in the best of the times. Then there is something very interesting where Buddha is also included. Many people have this question, why Buddha? Buddha historically refers to the 5th century BCE Buddha, Gautama Buddha. But we have had 4 other Buddhas, which many of the Sautrantikas and the Yogacharas in the Buddhist religion also agree who existed. In fact, in the Ramayana, we have the word Buddha as a reference when Rama listens to the speech of Jabali. And there are a few namas in Vishnu Sahasranamam like Ratnanabaha, Sulochanaha that are attributed to Buddha. Though the tenets of Buddhism may be diametrically opposite to Sanatana Dharma, later the Acharyas have also included Buddha as one of the avatars, Amsha-avatars of Vishnu. So it has been sculpted. Then we have 2 other people who are fervent servants to the Lord. One, during the Rama Avataram, it was Hanuman. And second, Garuda, who is present in all avatars. Even in the Rama Avatara, in Yuddha Kanda, he comes and retrieves Rama and Lakshmana from the poisonous snakes. So these are extremely 2 important pillars of devotion in Sri Vaikuntham. So they have been sculpted in the Prabha. So you can see a Hanuman and you can see a Garuda. And then you can also see some of the symbols that are very sacred and regarded very holy in Sanatana Dharma. One is Pranava, which is Omkara. It has A, U, Ma. So this makes Om. So Om, which is Pranava, has been inscribed. The other symbol, which is not very prominent in some of the eastern parts of the country and not much in the southern part of the country, but which is very important to the rest of the country, is the swastika symbol. So the swastika symbolizes something which is auspicious, good, Shubha Labham. When Krishna says, a yoga kshemam vahamyaham, whatever you want to achieve, you will achieve, and whatever you have achieved will stay with you. So this auspiciousness, what India desires, is indicated through swastik. So we have Pranava, we have swastika, we have Hanuman, we have Garuda, we have the Dashavatara, we have of course the incomparable image, the Murti of Prabhu Sri Ramachandra holding the bow and the arrow. Something very significant, Shivani, is there has been space given for the bow to come and the arrow to come. So there could be 2 ways. Either the bow and the arrow could have been made as detachables in Krishna Shila itself, or they could be keeping golden bow and golden arrow. That is another possibility, because when there is space given, generally another metal is also allowed. And of course the Utsava Murti is going to be the Ram Lalla, the very little Ram Lalla, who is being worshipped for many decades together now. So overall, Shivani, I feel both the Shilpi is blessed, and what we are going to witness on the 22nd of January, we don't have a comparison to it, and it will remain unsurpassed and unparalleled in the history of Bharata Desham post-independence.
Co-powered by
जोड़ करके जली है। ये राम ज्योति मेरे भैया 4.25 करोड़ बेघर को उनको छत दे करके तो जली है। ये राम ज्योति 13 करोड़ लोगों के घर में पहली बार शौचालय बना करके इज्जत घर दे करके जली है। ये राम ज्योति 55 करोड़ लोगों को 5 लाख रुपया सालाना इलाज दे करके बनी जली है। इस ज्योति का कितना लौ होगा, जो ज्योति न जाने कितने लगभग 12 करोड़ माताओं की आंखों से धुआं हटा करके जली है। उस ज्योति पर विपक्ष को गर्व हो न हो, हमें गर्व था, गर्व है और गर्व रहेगा साहेब, हमें रहेगा साहब।
क्या बात है। तो जो लोग पहले कहते थे कि मंदिर वहीं बनाएंगे पर तारीख नहीं बताएंगे, आप पर यह आरोप लगता था कि आप कह रहे हैं कि मंदिर तब बनाएंगे जब आप कुर्सी पर बिठाएंगे। अब कहा जा रहा है कि 24 के लिए कह रहे हैं, प्राण प्रतिष्ठा करा दी, अब हमें वोट बनाकर फिर से सरकार बनवा दो।
वो प्राण
सियासत भी ला रहे हैं इस आस्था
वो
में।
प्राण प्रतिष्ठा में कभी नहीं आते। वो तो राम का प्राण हरने में विश्वास करते हैं, राम को प्राण देने में विश्वास ही नहीं करते हैं। अभी जो लोग भी आपके मंच पे आएंगे, जो इंडी अलायंस से होंगे, आपको राम जी के प्राण प्रतिष्ठा से क्या दिक्कत है? 500 साल से राम जी के मंदिर को तोड़कर, और ये बात जब मैं कह रहा हूं तो आप याद रखिए, माननीय सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने यह फैसला दिया है
जी।
अगर आज का कानून उस समय होता ना, तो बाबर को फांसी की सजा होती। आप किसी दूसरे, आज भी मैं इस शो में कह रहा हूं, मैं एक सांसद के रूप में भी कह रहा हूं, किसका मजाल है जो किसी भी धर्म के किसी देवालय को गिरा दे? मंदिर हो, गुरुद्वारा हो, गिरजाघर हो, मस्जिद हो, क्या कोई तोड़ सकता है? हमारा कानून ऐसा है कि हम सभी धर्मों का सम्मान करते हैं, लेकिन सभी धर्मों का सम्मान करने में राम का सम्मान क्यों छूट जाएगा?
Mr. S. Gurumurthy, who is the editor of the Tughlaq. He is also, viewers, an ideologue and an author, and as I told you, viewers, has been intrinsically involved in this civilizational battle. Now, I am very honored to have you with us, Mr. Gurumurthy. You, of course, require no introductions. I want to ask you some basic questions tonight. And please pardon me if I sound very simplistic, but sometimes those are the easiest questions to supply complex answers to. So, Mr. Gurumurthy, how should ordinary Indians view the January 22nd Ram Lalla Pran Pratishtha in Ayodhya? Is it, viewers, as many have claimed today,